There was one last thing that I want to show you in terms of working with bar charts before we end this tutorial. It's already a little bit long, but what you've noticed here is that I've clicked on the second sheet for this particular spreadsheet, and what we have reported here are 4 schools: East, Central, West, and South high schools, and also their average test scores. You see at the top, these are senior standardized math test scores from 2012. What we'll do here is just click and drag to highlight this information that we want to report. Come up under Insert, and we'll come over again, just a regular bar chart, 2D column. And one of the things you'll notice right away is that we see now the scale is from 245 to 290. And that's what happens sometimes when we have large values that don't differ much from one another. What Excel does by default is it makes it the scale magnifies that area where there is parts of the bar, so we can see some sort of variation, but that may not be really appropriate, and it may distort the differences between these bars. We should have a 0 that should be reported at the bottom. Let's go back up and choose Design, click over to Move Chart, and I'll just move it to Chart 2 will be the new sheet name. I could give it another name if I wanted to. And I just want to show you in just a moment how we go about changing the scale, but for right now let me go ahead and pause this. I'll go ahead and format the chart so it's consistent with what we did for the previous chart, which is some of the options I like to use, and then I'll come back in just a moment and you'll see the chart will be looking all nice and pretty, except for the scale will still not be down to 0. So just take a breath for 1 second. There, just like that, magically I formatted the entire chart the way I want it. We still have an issue here where the scale for any bar chart should start at 0. Otherwise, we notice then the gap is made more pronounced and actually distort how much of a difference there actually is between our 4 area high schools. So what I'm going to do is move the cursor over top of one of the values in my my y-axis, left mouse button to highlight. Now I'll do a right mouse button to bring up the options, and if down the very bottom here, let me go up and do it a little farther up, see if I can get more. Left mouse button to now right mouse button, and notice we'll come down to format axis. So again, move the cursor over top of where the information is reported for the axis, right mouse button, right mouse button, and now while the values are all highlighted for the y-axis, click on the right mouse button now, come down to format axes, and you notice a range of options are brought up here for us. The very last one is highlighted where the bars are axis options, and that's what we want. You notice here are the bounds from 245 for the minimum value up to 290 for the maximum value. Let's go ahead and change the minimum to be a value of 0, which is what we want. But let's also change the top to be 300, which it does automatically for us. So now what we've done here is you'll notice off to the where we see the area of the plot, now it's from 0 to 300, which is what we want. We'll go ahead and close these options out. And again, all I did was move the cursor on top of one of the numbers, left mouse button to highlight, right mouse button to bring up the set of options I have. I came down and chose Format Axes, and now we notice all these options come open here to the right hand side of our screen. I can make the minimum any number. Let's make it 50. I can make the maximum any number. Let's make it 1,000. And if I go ahead and just click return, you notice then it automatically changes the scale. But of course I don't want 50 to 1,000. Go back and make it 0 and the top number to be 300. Nice to keep it an order of magnitude so we have hundreds here. And go ahead, hit enter. And now you notice it's adjusted, and I'll close then the form axis options. And that's how we go ahead, and that would be a more appropriate bar chart. It would not be distorted the information. The differences between our schools, we do notice Central High School is higher than the others, but we see now, relatively speaking, it's not as large of a difference as what it was when the scale was from 245 up to 295. And so this would be a more appropriate way. Starting the scale at 0 would be a more appropriate way to report then this information in a bar chart.